From our Toronto studios, this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I'm Aishah Ashraf. The East Plano Islamic Center is suing the state, saying a ban on Islamic funeral services violates religious freedom. This and more in today's show. Stay tuned. The New York Times is under fire for publishing a story about New York mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani based on hacked documents. The Columbia Journalism Review has criticized the Times for using stolen documents by white supremacists. The report focused on Mamdani's 2009 application to Columbia University, where he identified as both Asian and Black or African American. Mamdani, who was born in Uganda to Indian parents, said he chose those categories because no option reflected his background. The story triggered heated debate online, with many criticizing the New York Times for what they say is a non-issue blown out of proportion. Even Mamdani's opponent, Republican Curtis Sliva, said he had no problem with how Mamdani identifies himself. Before this report, the Times published an editorial widely seen as an anti-endorsement of Mamdani. This is despite its pledge not to endorse local candidates. Observers accuse the paper of unfairly targeting him. More on the controversy in this report by Muslim News. The death toll from flash floods in Texas, which have caused widespread damage, has climbed to nearly 100. Among the dead are 28 children. Kerr County is the hardest hit with 68 deaths. Other fatalities include 6 in Travis County, 3 in Burnett, 2 each in Kendall and Williamson, and 1 in Tom Green County. Rescue teams are searching for survivors in the Hill Country region. President Donald Trump said he plans to visit Texas on Friday. He told reporters that an earlier visit would interfere with rescue operations. The president also signed a major disaster declaration for Kerr County. This will help ensure resources for first responders are available. Authorities fear the toll may rise as searches continue. President Donald Trump has warned that any country aligning with what he called BRICS' anti-American policies will face an extra 10% tariff. Trump made the announcement late Sunday on his Truth Social platform. He stressed there will be no exceptions to this policy. BRICS is an intergovernmental organization made up of 11 countries, including Brazil, Russia, India, China, Indonesia, Iran, and Saudi Arabia, that aims to represent the global South. The warning comes as BRICS leaders gathered in Rio de Janeiro for their annual summit. Trump also repeated his threat that countries supporting a BRICS currency or any alternative to the dollar could face tariffs as high as 100%. BRICS members have been discussing moving away from the dollar, especially since U.S. sanctions on Russia in 2022. Analysts say Trump's remarks signal tougher trade measures against those backing BRICS currency plans. The Pentagon has set aside $130 million for 2026 to support groups in Syria under its Counter-ISIS Train and Equip Fund. Most of the money will go to the U.S.-backed Kurdish Syrian Democratic Forces, or SDF, led by the PKK-YPG terror group. Turkey says the PKK-YPG has killed more than 40,000 people during its decades-long terror campaign. About $7.4 million is for the Syrian Free Army to expand operations against ISIS in the Badia Desert. The budget covers training, equipment, stipends, light weapons, medical aid, and facility repairs. Officials say the goal is to prevent an ISIS resurgence, which they call a threat to U.S. and regional security. The Pentagon provided $147.9 million for these groups in 2025 and $156 million in 2024. For the first time, $15 million will go to Lebanon's army to boost counterterrorism efforts near the Israeli border. A stateless Palestinian woman has shared shocking details of abuse she says she endured in U.S. immigration custody. Ward Sakek was detained for nearly 5 months by Immigration and Customs Enforcement. She says she was shackled for hours, denied food and water, and treated inhumanely. Born in Saudi Arabia to Palestinian parents from Gaza, Sakek moved illegally to the U.S. as a child. After marrying a U.S. citizen and applying for a green card, she was detained on return from her honeymoon in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Sakek described being handcuffed for 16 hours and moved like cattle. She spoke of poor conditions at a Texas detention center that led to widespread illness. Her lawyer accused immigration officials of dismissing her ordeal. Zakek now plans to campaign for the rights of women held in ICE detention. Plano Islamic Center, or EPIC, is taking legal action to resume Islamic funeral rites. The Texas Funeral Commission ordered EPIC to stop the services in March. EPIC filed a lawsuit last week in Travis County, saying the order violates religious freedom. The group says 11 congregants have died without receiving proper funeral rites since the ban. The dispute is linked to the planned EPIC City project near Josephine, Texas. The 402-acre initiative has drawn Islamophobic attacks from Governor Greg Abbott and state agencies. Abbott called for investigations, saying Sharia law is not allowed in Texas. EPIC lawyer says the probes are racial profiling the Muslim community and politically motivated. Thousands gathered in Iran's capital Sunday to mourn the martyrdom of Imam Hussein. This and more coming up next. Israeli soldiers killed at least 105 Palestinians and wounded 356 in Gaza in the past 24 hours, according to the Palestinian Health Ministry. Israeli forces continue to pound the region and attack people seeking food and aid, killing at least 25 on Monday. 6 people, including a toddler, died in a strike on a clinic-turned-shelter in Gaza City. A residential apartment and a house were also hit, killing more and injuring many. 4 displaced Palestinians were wounded critically in Deir al-Balah. Despite Israel's ongoing attacks, President Donald Trump claims there's a good chance of a ceasefire deal this week. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is in Washington as talks continue in Qatar. Since Israel broke the ceasefire with Hamas on March 18th, it has killed at least 6,964 Palestinians and wounded more than 24,576. Israel's genocide in Gaza has killed more than 64,000 Palestinians, the majority of them women, children, and the elderly, according to a major study published in the British medical journal The Lancet in January. The International Criminal Court has issued arrest warrants for Netanyahu, and its former defense minister Yoav Gallant face charges of war crimes and crimes against humanity in Gaza. As well, the International Court of Justice has accused Israel of genocide in the region. Palestinian tribes in the West Bank city of Hebron have strongly rejected a proposal to create a so-called tribal emirate in the city. The plan, reportedly sent by some local figures to Israel's economy minister, offered to recognize Israel as a Jewish state in exchange for limited autonomy. At a press conference, tribal leader Nafiz al-Jabari denounced the proposal. He said it came from an individual with no ties to the tribe or the city. The tribes reaffirmed their commitment to Palestinian rights, including statehood with East Jerusalem as the capital. The proposal was linked to joining the Abraham Accords, but Hebron's tribes say Palestinians will not abandon their cause. Meanwhile, Israel's violence in the West Bank continues. Israeli soldiers and settlers have killed nearly 1,000 Palestinians since October 2023. The International Court of Justice has called Israel's occupation illegal and demanded that all Israeli settlements be dismantled. Hebron, which is also known as Al-Khalil, is the largest city in the West Bank. It holds significance as it is the burial place of Prophet Abraham and his wife Sarah. Biblical tradition says Prophets Isaac and Jacob are also buried in the city. Muslims in Iran's capital, Tehran, held a large procession on Sunday to mark Ashura, the 10th day of the Islamic month of Muharram. Ashura commemorates the martyrdom of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him's grandson, Al-Hussein, in the city of Karbala in Iraq in 680 AD. Al-Hussein and 72 companions were killed by the forces of Umayyad Caliph Yazid. Sunday's ceremony included a dramatic reenactment of the Battle of Karbala. A symbolic tent representing Hussein's was set on fire as part of the ritual. The event reflected deep mourning and devotion as Tehran joined millions of Muslims worldwide in remembering a tragic chapter of Islamic history. Human rights experts warned that China may expand forced organ harvesting of Uyghur Muslims in Chinese-occupied eastern Turkestan. Chinese authorities are planning 6 new transplant centers in the region by 2030, raising the total to 9. The centers will offer heart, lung, liver, kidney, and pancreas transplants. China performs up to 100,000 transplants a year, but has just 0.69 voluntary donors per million in eastern Turkestan, which is officially known as Xinjiang. Experts say detained Uyghurs undergo forced blood tests and organ scans for compatibility. Activists say that Uyghur detainees also face forced abortion, sterilization, labor, and murder. Beijing denies the charges, but experts call voluntary donation claims impossible in such conditions. They say this massive expansion in a region under repression raises serious alarm. Rights groups are calling for an international investigation into China's transplant plans, calling the expansion a threat to human rights. 20 years after the July 7, 2005 bombings, British Muslims say they continue to face rising Islamophobia, suspicion, and isolation. The attacks killed 52 people and injured more than 700, but they also marked a turning point for Muslim communities across the UK. In the days that followed, police recorded 180 racist incidents, including 58 faith-related attacks, and mosques were targeted with arson. Many Muslims felt forced to defend their identity and loyalty to Britain. A Guardian poll at the time found that 2/3 of Muslims considered leaving the UK. Community leaders like Imam Qari Asim recall the emotional toll, with many feeling grief, fear, and guilt. Asim said the need to constantly justify belonging became part of daily life, with people even fearing to carry bags on public transport. Experts say counterterrorism laws introduced after July 7th, including increased stop and search powers, disproportionately targeted Muslims and deepened feelings of alienation. Islamophobic assaults rose 73% last year, linked to far-right rhetoric and social media hate. Critics argue decades of viewing Muslims through a counterterrorism lens has fueled division. Campaigners now call for solidarity, new narratives of inclusion, and policies that promote equality rather than suspicion. Moroccan Central Bank's Governor Abdellatif Jouahri has urged greater international cooperation to boost Islamic finance. Speaking in the capital, Rabat, at the 23rd Forum on Islamic Financial Stability, Jouahri said the sector faces major challenges. These include Sharia compliance, liquidity management, sustainable financing, and risks linked to digitalization. He stressed stronger partnerships and respect for global standards while adapting to local contexts are key to addressing these issues. Jouahri praised Morocco's centralized fatwa system, led by the Supreme Council of Ulemas, which ensures Sharia compliance of financial products and builds public trust. The forum, co-hosted by Bank Al-Maghrib and the Islamic Financial Services Board, or IFSB, gathered more than 130 representatives from central banks, regulators, and multilateral institutions. A new study warns that a key ingredient in U.S. weed killers such as Roundup can severely damage organs and gut bacteria. Dequit is used widely in vineyards, orchards, and farms. It replaced glyphosate in many products, but experts say it is even more toxic. The chemical is banned in the UK, EU, China, and other countries, but U.S. regulators have resisted calls for action. Research shows Dequit harms the kidneys, liver, lungs, and weakens the gut lining. This allows toxins into the bloodstream and can cause inflammation throughout the body. Dequit is linked to cancer, Parkinson's disease, and is about 200 times more toxic than glyphosate in chronic exposure. It may lead to organ failure. Experts say the Environmental Protection Agency's weak pesticide laws and industry's influence keep dangerous chemicals on the market. Bayer, which makes Roundup, has faced nearly 175,000 lawsuits, but has not responded to the latest findings. That's all from our Toronto studios. Thank you for watching Muslim News. We are a community channel dedicated to bringing you stories you can trust. Please like, share, and subscribe to our content. You can also comment to let us know what you think of our coverage. You can donate now by visiting muslimnetwork.tv/donate. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV. Salam.